and that was a NFL HTCU XYZ, big ugly thing, heavier than heck, and Uncle Bradford no lightweight either. So he's like, Al, I want you to break. So what I do, he lives 500 miles towards the prairies, right? Into the prairies. So I'm kind of like in the center, you know, 500 miles to the coast or 500 miles to Uncle Bradford's. What is that in clicks? I don't know, man. It's about 500 miles. Is it 500? No, maybe I'm confused. No, it's more than 500 clicks. Yeah, no, it's about 450 miles plus. And yeah, it's got to be, yeah, for sure. So when I took Uncle Bradford's bike, so I went to his place to go visit him and my other brother. And then I came home when I was broken in. Did I make? Yeah, I think I made him catch a ride and come back and pick it up. And it was beauty. It was beauty. I ended up scoring that engine off him. God bless you, Brad. It was great. It was great. And I ran it in my bike because I had cracked one of my engine cases, my original engine cases on my scooter. I went through a river ford, and I don't know if you know what that is, but that's where the road goes through a river. And it was a hot day, and I went through, I probably hit a rock or touched a rock or something, who knows, and I had this crack, and I was working out that way. So every second weekend I'm booting home at 100 miles an hour so I can see my old lady and hang out with my dog, and then booting back for work for Monday. And I noticed this. My bike doesn't leak oil, and I noticed, hey, wait a minute, why am I dripping oil here? And I'm out there, and I see a little crack. And then I investigated. Well, it's a little bigger than I think. So I had been running on this crack, and I booted home, and I took off my primary system, and the crack was going right across the whole case on my Timken side. So, is there a Timken side here? What did I do with that? That crack went right across here. So I don't know, did I put on 2,000, 4,000, 6,000, 5,000? I don't know how many miles I put on it like that. Thank God for S&S. I love their stuff. So I get in the garage, and my son shows up, my youngest son. He goes, Dad, what are you doing? I says, I got to build an engine so I can get back to work on Monday. He's looking around, he goes, yeah, you ain't gonna do that. I said, yeah, I got no choice, because my truck and my gear were all out that way, and that was my only way back to work. So I had an old Spooth kit with used pistons and stuff. I think I had a fresh set of rings for it. I had a set of heads that were rebuilt by this dealership, and I know the head mechanic there, I used to, and he really good at what he does. I had a set of heads that they had done where I just lapped the valves, like actually cut the valves with these new 8 cutters that I'm going to show you how to use. And so I had an 80-inch crank that was good, and I had a set of Spooth cases to go with that Spooth top end. So yeah, boom. Sunday afternoon, my kid shows up and says, what the hell? I can't believe my eyes. And I said, whatever, I got to get to work. And I booted. And so with that Spooth top end and that 80-inch crank, right, I was 95 cubic inch. So I rode that for a while, the way it was. And until I could afford to buy a new set of cases for Speedy. So Speedy was using that engine. And I did get the cases, but I had to run, because I was now the proud owner of Uncle Bradford's 98-inch, so I figured I had to run that just to feel what it feels like in my bike. So I ran that for a couple seasons in my bike. And she was a stump puller, man. She was good. It wasn't like Speedy where gear down, high revs, and go, right? We'll go catch a truck and pass it. It was stump pulling power. So on the straightaways, yeah, no, it had lots of power, and it's a bigger engine than mine. But everybody could pass me, and then as soon as I hit a hill, I walked up the hill and left everybody else behind. That is just the way it was. And when I built that engine, of course I built it thinking of the rider and who he is, his riding style, and the motorcycle itself. And it was a heavy bike, and we needed something to pull for Uncle Bradford, and I wanted him to be happy, reliable, and proud about it. And he was. Until his roommate ran over his motorcycle in the garage. Another story. Which is how I ended up with the engine. So yeah, anytime you're honing, do your clear up. Now, when you're honing a cylinder, there's a lot of guys that will tell you, hey, you got to go from the top down, you got to go from the bottom up. Now, when you start honing, you're going to feel thumpity thumpity thump. Now, the base of the cylinder doesn't widen up that much. It'll go egg-shaped down here because your piston doesn't go up and down. Your piston goes forward and back, right? So it's pounding on the front, pounding on the back, on the bottom, on the way down. And your front cylinder takes most of the damage because that's your number one cylinder. That's your power stroke right there. So what you do when you start off, I will start from the bottom. I don't care where I start, but what I do is I tighten up my stones so that it's tight to center, and then I just start honing her out, and eventually the thump 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 will start to smooth out on you and stuff, and that's you making your cylinder round again, right? Now, if you are going to do your own honing, and I'm not just talking about honing for rings, like a deglazing, like the ball hones are good for deglazing, if you want to just change your rings or whatever. Say your bike's been sitting for a number of years and your rings might be ugly, sticky, or whatever you figure. I don't really use them, just for the simple fact that I got a self-centering hone set up, and I got right up to 500 grit because smooth you finish with a 500 grit. But if I want to deglaze, I can just grab my 500 grits and deglaze, or something maybe not that extremely fine. It doesn't matter as long as I'm deglazing and doing what I wish to do. And a lot of times, like I was saying in one of the other videos, like Mother's Shovelhead, he's got an FLH 76 with an 80-inch engine in it, or 80-inch crank in 76 cases and stuff. I check my clearances, I check my taper, right? Your taper checker. You can get this Snap-on, Mac, wherever. I'm sure you can buy it at Farmer Supply. But I check my taper to see if my taper is going to allow me, because you don't want more than 3 thou. You're done, dude. You're done. Your rings are not going to take up that space, and you're going to be always burning oil. So like even if I got 1 thou, okay, well, that's fine. I'll give her a quick hone. I'll get some oversized rings, and I'll cut my ring gaps down and bring them back to minimum size. Now on a shovel head, you're talking, I think it's 3.5 thou per inch of size. So you're talking just under 16 thou for your compression rings, right? Your first and second rings. And I know I got babbling and thinking at the same time. You can't trust boomers, man. You can't shoot us either. Not yet. Not legally. So yeah, I mean, I was saying, if I was a young guy, if a young guy asked me what tools do you think I should have for myself, I would definitely have something for honing. They're not that expensive, but something for honing so I could re-ring my bike. a reliable way to lap my valves instead of doing this, it's gay. Forget it. You got to understand, back when they were using those tools, we had stuff like bronze guides. They were easy to cut, easy to lap. All right, these are harder. They're not stellite, the stock ones, but they're harder. And you want to get those pits out of the surface where the face of the valve meets the face of the seat. That's what you want to do to make the seal, to hold your squish, right? That's the name of the game. And I've seen 3-stage and 5-stage cuts, and I grab the head and I look down the port and I can see right through the valve face. And that was done at a dealership. I've seen this multiple times. It's like somebody went through the motions, but they just didn't give a shit, or didn't know. Don't get me started on dealerships. It's almost like getting started on politics. So on Tommy's, my clearance, I got him at around 2 thou clearance. Tommy, I trust. Tommy's a mechanic. He understands break-ins. He understands the shit. And so I do trust him. Otherwise, I'd be looking at more like 2.5 thou clearance I'd like to give him. Now, not all pistons are equal. These are S&S pistons. They're decent pistons. A good cast piston. Nothing fancy. Personally, I like my forged pistons. But up here in Kanakistan, like Tony's cost me 600 beans. $600 for a set of piston. A good set of forged pistons used to be around 300. Not that long ago. Everything's doubled. We got carnage up here. And that's what happens when you vote for Liberals. Everything goes for shit. Did I say that out loud? Good thing it's not a sponsored video. God forbid. So, S&S recommendation for these pistons is 1.5 to 2 thou tight fit, 2 to 2.5 thou loose fit. I brought Tommy in around 2. Just right there. I trust Tommy, but he's a big boy. Most of my friends are big boys. They're not skinny, junky looking guys. And they like their beef. What can I tell you? And so, I feel safe on him doing a proper break-in with these pistons. On Mother's, on that silicone engine, I didn't give him racing clearance, but I gave him extra clearance because I don't trust him. He gets excited. On Tony's, on that 89, or I should say, the Cossacks, on his 80, an 89 cubic inch shovel head. It was actually a true 88. Now I get guys telling me this and that, we can all argue about it all day long. But I used a 4 5/8 stroker kit that I built, not bought off the shelf, like a kit that's not assembled, not balanced. I used a 4 5/8, and then what I did. See, a lot of guys don't understand that an 80-inch shovel head barrel is 60 thou over a standard 74-inch barrel. The 74-inch barrel, they just bored it out. I get guys, you'll hear this. Oh yeah, mine's bored out, so it's now 84, it's 88, it's whatever I decided it to be right now over this beer and whiskey. No, that only gives you 1 cubic inch on these. I'm serious, it only gives you 1 cubic inch. So, knowing my brother, that flying Cossack, he was flying all over the place on that mini stroker, I talked him in and let me put, because we use fresh barrels, so let me put some 74 barrels on here. Because then you get 9 rebuilds. You're only using 1 cubic inch. And the secret will be our cam, our compression, and our headwork. That's what's going to make it rock. And my brother, well over 200 pounds. and his lovely wife and all that gear they packed, you know, and that FLH being heavy, period. But he did a perfect break-in on that engine. How do I know? Because I built him a 96 here last year. So I took his old engine and we did some kind of trade or whatever. And I had his old jugs and pistons. I had no taper. Look, the Duke can verify how the Flying Cossack and his old lady were ramping around the countryside on that thing. And there was basically no taper on this thing. So what did I do? I used those jugs, those 74 jugs, and those exact same pistons with some new rings and a nice new fresh hone with some oversized rings cut down, and I put it in my kid's shovel head, and he's rocking and rolling on that. Yes, we've been out 500 miles that way and 500 miles back. We just went for a birthday run with his uncle, and he rides his bike fairly steady, and it works good. So don't be scared about saving things, saving pistons and stuff that that one of your friends might need in the future. Like I got some of the TRW 30 thou over 80 pistons, right? So 80 thou over 74, right? But some 30 thou over 80 Evo stroker pistons that give me a nice clean 10-to-1 compression. And I kept those pistons because if I'm working on somebody's hot setup, like an 89-inch hot setup, somebody comes in and we got pistons problems and we're one of my brothers and we're on a budget, I know I can use those with a fresh set of rings and a fresh hone, right? So that's what I love about Harley Gerbersons, because they were designed to rebuild. Maybe I just like rebuilding stuff. Probably. You don't throw them in the garbage until they're garbage. Here, I'll show you something that should be garbage. Most guys would have threw away. And this is going to be one of our projects coming in the future. But let me, okay. So I covered the flywheel. So I got to true these in, obviously. Wristband bushings are done. Sweet. And they're 2 thou over because the one wrist pin, when I put it in, I just didn't like the squish on it. I didn't like the press fit. So no. So I put in 2 thou over. Jugs are done. This one will get washed and then I'll rub it down and I'll clean both my gasket surfaces on them. Cases are done. I'm fit to bear for these pinion bearings. That's sweet. I've got my matched up set of Timkins. That's sweet. So this short block's going together here right away. Okay, I think I got everything covered for now. And what was I about to go on about? It was something. Damn, it's tough being a boomer. I know everybody hates a boomer, but you know how tough it is? But, whatever. Oh, where's that thought? If I could catch you. Oh, whatever. Okay. I guess that's the end of this one. What the hey. Whatever you lock, whatever you hone, whatever you bore. Oh, that's what I started on. I didn't want to leave half done. Make sure you rub down with some light oil and get them clean after you wash them. So, I don't care if you start at the bottom or if you start from the top when you're home. I could give a shit. Everything else is a wives' tale. What's important, what I believe is important, let me just pull these stones out. Now, Snap-on used to carry the stones on the truck. Blue Streak used to make them. They stopped doing it. And now, I don't know how it is down in the States, but say you got a Snap-on dealer, or did I talk about this already? You got a Snap-on dealer for the past 20 years, 10 years, 30 years, and he retires or something, he sells to a new guy. whatever you bought from your other Snap-on dealer, they've changed the policy up here in Kanakistan. He doesn't have to warranty it. Well, what's with that? Mac will warranty it. Matco, which they've been making tools since 1936. They just didn't have the trucks until recently. They warranty it. What's with Snap-on? Another corporate gay decision? So when you're running your home, you're going to feel the lumps because you got egg-shaped barrels and stuff. And so what I like to do is a 33 1/3 degree Mason crosshatch. So I like to do a 33 degree crosshatch. I don't know if you can see this one. Should be able to now that the lighting in here ain't the greatest. I don't know if you can see that crosshatch. Oh, let me change sides. Get some light on it. Ooh. I feel like John Candy's horror movie. I don't know if you can see that, but I like to get, so when you're honing out, you want to keep yourself down to 200, under 250 RPM. You don't want to be swinging way the fuck out there and way the back here and and you don't want to be just sitting there turning it either. No matter how long your stones are, how they fit that cylinder. So you want to go in about 1/3. Or as they say in Quebec, turdy turd and a turd. Right? And so you don't have to go fast. Okay. I'm just trying to help the young fellers out and break all the stupid wives' tales. You just steady. Steady is the key. Just stay steady. Just bring her back and forth. Be patient. Put your headphones on. Listen to music. Smoke a doobie. Whatever turns your crank that gives you your zen. And go back and forth. Then after, when you're happy or sick of honing for a bit, what you do is just clean her out. Just take a normal rag. It doesn't have to be oiled. I prefer not to oil. And you can, look, you can do this wet or dry. Now, could I put this on a sun and honing machine and sit there and do the same thing? Yeah, with a wet machine. In fact, I do have a wet setup in my dirty room with honing fluid. Honing fluid is best for automatic systems, trust me on this. But you can do whatever. When I'm finishing spoofs on that 500 grit, I do like to use honing fluid on that. But you can do these wet or dry. I prefer to do them dry. Neighbor up my way, he does a lot of honing and stuff, and he also prefers to do it dry, and I do it dry. So you want to keep her about 1/3, going 1/3 of the way through. You want to stay steady. You want to keep your RPMs low. You don't want to just rock it through until you get to the clearance that you've decided to get to. This is a Mitsatoya. This is what I use to measure my piston. This is Mitsatoya. This is an inside mic, and I use this to measure my cylinder. If you take the reading hot, it might show you, say you're looking for your 3 thou clearance, and you take it hot. Hey, I got 3 thou. Then the next day or whatever, you go to assemble it, and you'll find out that you only have 1 thou, and then you're going to score the shit out of it. You'll have to let these things cool down. One of the reasons we use honing fluid is to keep the cylinder cool, number one, and to clean up all the dust. It just all the residue from the metal and the stones, it flushes, right? I like doing mine dry, and yes, I've done this on shovel heads without using torque plates. I've never had an issue. I've been doing this quite a while. It's whatever. You should, yeah, because there is. But you see, on the shovel head's a little different, because the shovel head. Where's a jug? We got a jug here somewhere. I know I got a jug here. Yeah, there's one. I think this one's gonna need a bore, or it doesn't really need the bore. Oh, I know what's going on with this one. That's a nice one. Ooh, yeah, that's pretty. Oh, and that's another trick. Forged pistons, they need more clearance than a cast piston. And now, like I'm sure you all heard of Keith Black pistons, right? They're a silicon-based alloy. And they're even a tighter fit, like they're under 1,000. I'm not a big fan of the Keith Black pistons. I do have some for a big bore shovel head that we will be doing. We'll be honing those cylinders out too, because we're going to turn a 74. I'm going to take a 74-inch shovel head. I'm going to put I'm going to build an Evolution crank for it, like redo an Evolution crank for it, and we're going to stick it in the shovel head with some 3 5/8 bore jugs and pistons. Guaranteed I'm going to have these jugs cut down to the length I want. Maybe I'll even take it to my machinist with me. See, the shovel head, it bolts here. So your torque, your squish is up here, and it torques down here. Yes, can I, with my jigs and that? Yeah, absolutely. If I was getting into some like super fine-tuned racing, I would. But you don't have to. And I'll tell you that right now. You don't have to. Oh yeah, I can feel the score in this one. That's why they're going to get done. You see that? So, whereas the Evolution, the whole cylinder gets squished when it gets torqued down, and it's a lighter. This is cast iron. That's aluminum, so it's lighter. So there's more deformity. In those. So if you're running a shovel head, you can stick her in some soft jaws. Do not buy gay soft jaws. Do not buy fiber soft jaws. They suck. They're useless. Buy aluminum soft jaws only, or make your own. Ain't that hard to make. Aluminum soft jaws will last you forever, and you can use your aluminum soft jaws in your vise. You can pinch the fat part of that jug in there, and you can start honing away. So 250 RPM, 33rd and a third degree crosshatch. Don't worry about how fast or whatever. Don't measure anything until this thing is cooled down, so that you get your proper measurement. Because you want to stop using your coarse. Can you go coarse, medium, and finer? Yes, you could if you wanted to. But usually, you'll with a 220, you'll take out the 80 grit, and it takes about 3 thou. Right? So you want to stop doing your course, a good 3 thou before you're ready to start working on your finish. And the other thing, okay, so checking your taper. I would definitely have one of these. And you want to check your taper. Well, let's look at the Majors taper. What kind of taper have we got? So what happens when you're using the deformed, when you got these oblong egg-shaped weirdo, I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not, is your stones will start to wear uneven too, right? If you're just giving her, you're giving her. If you look at these stones, you see how nice and even they are right across. Now when you're dealing with like honals and your sun and hones and stuff, say you want to do wrist spins with a honal, you don't have to use that ream. That's fine, and your stones naturally, they can end up tapered, they can end up a little warped. Like when you're working with cylinders, because the bottom of the cylinder is still basically its original bore except for the egg-shaped part, and the top is usually a little looser. And so these things will have a tendency to start to wedge on you, or you'll start noticing as you put your gauge through, right, that, okay, I need heavy equipment for this. Okay, so you'll start noticing as you put your gauge through that that you're starting to get a taper. Are you guys able to see that? Sorry. I can't tell if you can see that or not. Let's see. Because I'm a little higher up than when we originally did it over on the bike stand. Our original taper, to find out that we were like, and you have to hold your tongue in the right position. See, if I'm standing in front, I just do this, but then you wouldn't be able to see it. That's where I get my best stance. Kind of like martial arts with my best stance. I can't look at the camera and do this and keep a steady hand at the same time. Ah, fucking boomers. Can't do nothing with us. Yeah. Alright. Anyways, what you want to do, once it cools down, you want to check your taper. And if you start to taper, and what happens with these ones too is you'll start to get loose on the far end, you know, more where your wobble is, right? So, you know, the more you extend, hey, and there's always something. I mean, there's always something. So if you start getting the taper, just turn the cylinder around. And sorry about that, I was not in the greatest spot for this. So like this vice spins, right? So you just spin it around and then you come at it from the other direction. And then you're always wanting to check your taper. Keep your eye on the tape. Because you don't want to taper these and you don't want to wreck your stones. And every now and then you just take your stones off and just run them lightly on your wire wheel to get the glaze off the stone. And you see, that's something that using a wet system does. It keeps your stones from glazing, it keeps the dirt out, and the dirt's always moving out. And the solution, the honing fluid, gets recycled and filtered and then back again. So that's a couple of things about that, about the honing business. So yeah, you can spin this and then that. And usually if you got some self-control, like some of us do, I shouldn't do that. You know what the old good book says? You know, pride before the fall and haughtiness before destruction. No, pride before destruction and haughtiness before the fall. I don't want nothing to do with that. And you get shooting your mouth off, and the first thing, Murphy's up here, always watching. I don't know if you young fellers know about Murphy's Law, but he's always watching. And then I'll rub these pistons down, the piston skirts and that down with oil too, make sure they're all clean as well. Okay, so that's the basic 1-2 ABCs on honing. All right, but you're way better off having one of these systems than using a ball hone. I mean, I can take some 280s or whatever, throw them in there, do a quick deglazing, you know, freshen up my crosshatch without taking too much meat off. See, that's the thing. You're not taking that much meat off anyways. And you know, I can't afford pistons right now, but I can't afford a set of rings. Rings used to be, I don't know what they are down your way, but rings used to be cheap, and now nothing's cheap. Nothing's cheap. That's the bottom line. You know, but as a survivalist, a rider, we all us, we don't own shovel heads, and that we don't, because we got a $40,000 bank loan for a new bike off the shelf kind of stuff, you know. Basically dirty white boys or dirty black boys or dirty brown boys that love riding, and we're trying to, and we love building and working on our bikes too, and so that we're learning how to keep our rides going and keep the budget and still perform. That's the whole thing, still perform. And I'm really impressed with these young fellers on the older bikes performing. It's great, which is why I started these films. I could take them out of the Wisetail era, because I'd be on a run. Like I was on a run last year. My friend's son there, Quinn, he was running the, it's an FXR run. So he had his first of annual ones last summer. So I went on a run, and I'm seeing all these younger fellers, and I'm listening to them talk, eh? And a lot of the old wives' tales regurgitating from past days. So I don't say too much when I'm in a crowd or whatever. It took me a while just to learn how to talk to this stupid camera. But yeah, and it's nice. It's nice to be able to give back, you know, to the next generation and keep the faith, basically. So anyways, I am good on this one. I am good on that one. I am going to clean everything up, seal everything after I true up Tommy's crank. And the other thing, I put that little video. I don't know what happened with the camera. Low tech, boomer. But at least the picture that I put up on YouTube of the TIG was good. At least that part was good. The camera shut off on me or something when I went to show you guys the whole thing. And if you notice on that one, I TIG'd it to the pinion, not to the other. But I had to have that thing. Mother made a shaft for me that fit exactly in that non-tapered pinion hole of the gear. And the machinist, Al, he made a, because they're keyed, right? But the shaft I had was so damaged. I used to have one here, a good one, that was my jig, and it's gone. So, so Mother turned me a shaft, the right size. This thing's just slid on there. And then my machinist made a flat key that would fit just into the key waves in the actual gears and not interfere with the shaft. And then that's how he held them together and then take them up. And hopefully it works really good for him. It should. But that's standard. So that's 1992 and up. 1992 to 99. That's a little hop-up trick. If you've got one, you're going to cam it up or get performing and add some compression, this and that. It's a nice little trick. It's inexpensive. Just takes a little zen to have it done so that those gears don't backlash on you and break your key, and then your valve train hits everything. And yeah, it's a mess. It's a mess. That's not what happened on that silicone engine. The one with some JB Weld in it and silicone throughout. That was a major blow up. And this thing here on Tom's, this thing blew up pretty damn good. Blew it up real good. You know, back probably before he got it. I mean, this is an 84 FXEF Evolution. So it was the only year of a 4-speed Evolution Super Glide. That was the only year. And then everything went rubber mounts in the Super Glide era after that. But the only solid mount, swing arm frame, 4-speed Evolution Super Glide. There was 2,000 of them made. And as a matter of fact, I was over at a buddy's place for dinner, playing some cards, and his buddy came down and he has one. And he's bragging about his bike. And I'm going, oh. And he goes, yeah, it's an FXEF. Yeah, there was only 2,000 made. Oh, now I got all this from Major Tom, you know. We had our little powwow about this a while back, and yep, that's what it is, all right. So this bike here, Major Tom's bike, is actually a fairly special bike, even though we have an FLT front end on it. But I think I got some tubes because the FL tubes they're short. To make a long story short, and I'm sorry I lost those films, boomered them out, but we're going to see if we can bring them up a couple inch with another set of the same era tubes in his front end, and that'll actually I believe it's going to improve his handling as well as fix his stance on the bike. So, but if I ever get through this, okay, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to go clean, I'll double check all my numbers, I'll get this trued, and I'm going to install this stuff together, get my short block on the bench. We've got rocker bushings to do, cleaning up rockers, whether you're shovel head, pan head, any overhead, you got your rockers. And if you look here, I don't have my glasses on, but you see here, you see that flat spot? So what we're going to do is clean up that flat spot on the rockers. And that's where it's pushing down on your valves. We're going to clean that up. We're going to replace these bushings. We're going to line bore the bushings. And something, oh yeah, I did bring in, it wasn't in, it doesn't matter. Something I did forget about, or I didn't actually forget about it, I just didn't see it, is because I didn't read it when I was cleaning up the parts. In fact, the oil pump was one of the last things that I was cleaning up, but hey, I'm always preaching, wash your own parts, right? And do your own cleaning. So, you see that score? See that score there? And it's right in between the keys. Guess what's in between the keys? Each key runs gear for in and out, right, of your oil. There's a seal in between your keys. So what happened was whoever put this pump on, or put the cam and the pump on, you see the seal? All right, we're going to change that seal. So they put the wrong clip. They put the innie on the outie and the outie on the innie. And so the clip, because it's a zero clearance for the gears, for the feed, and the whatever, and the feed in and the feed out. That, I think that's where the head of the clip ended up, right between the two keys. And so the problem is, yeah, we put a seal in there, but the damage from the shaft, he may end up losing pressure and crossing things over, and lose pressure where pressure is needed in the rest of the engine. So, and really at idles and stuff, where you really want your oil pressure to be halfway decent, because that's the only thing cooling it when you're stuck in traffic at 80, 90, and 100 degrees above. And yes, Alberta does get 80, 90, and 110 in the shade. So I think I have a used shaft that's good. So I will check that out, but we're not putting this one back in. So that one got past me. But at least his oil pump was good, and we didn't have to go and find an oil pump. Hey! Alright. Good on you. See you later.